Hi Scouts, I'm Mr. DeCamp, Scoutmaster of Troop 18. Today I'm going to show you how you can make a great dessert in a Dutch oven that you and your fellow Scouts are really going to love. And here's the best part about learning how to make this dessert yourself. I don't know how things are going to work in whatever troop you end up joining, but in Troop 18, one of the things that we do is we make sure Scouts are responsible for themselves. One of the ways we do that is that on campouts, Scouts cook for themselves and adults cook for themselves. What that means is that when you can make this dessert for yourself, you and your fellow Scouts don't have to share it with the adults. Okay? So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that we need to do is make sure we have a safe work area. Dutch ovens are heavy and they get really hot, so we want to make sure that we're not going to burn ourselves or anyone else who's in the area. Now, we're going to be using charcoal to heat our Dutch oven. Since I'm on my deck, I'm going to be using this table, which is specially built for cooking with a Dutch oven. But you can just as easily do this on the ground. If you're going to do that, you want to make sure it's in an established fire pit, and I suggest you put down a layer of aluminum foil on the ground. That creates your work surface. It also helps reflect the heat, and it keeps the moisture from the ground from affecting your coals. So the things we're going to need are obviously our Dutch oven, a good pair of barbecue gloves, a pair of tongs, a lid lifter, we'll get to that in a few minutes, and a charcoal chimney with charcoal and newspaper. All right, so it's time to get our coals going. Now, for this recipe, we're going to need about 25 charcoal briquettes. Since some of the briquettes are going to burn faster than others, I always like to make more than I need, probably about twice. This little chimney holds about 50 briquettes, which is just about right. So the way we light it is really simple. We simply take a little bit of newspaper, we wad it up and put it in the bottom, and simply light it. Now, here's a safety tip to keep in mind. Some charcoal briquettes come pre-soaked with lighter fluid. You do not want to use those kind of briquettes in a charcoal chimney. Those briquettes burn way too fast and way too hot, and you end up with flames shooting out the top, and it's really dangerous and really not what you want. So just make sure you're using plain old regular briquettes. Now, you'll know that it's kind of going because you'll see smoke. Once the newspaper disappears, you may or may not know it's still going. If you see smoke or you feel heat coming out the top of it though, you know that it's lit. All right, it's been about 25 minutes and the coals on the top are just starting to turn white and you can just barely see some flame coming off. So we know that they're ready now. So what some people like to do is use their tongs to just pick out the coals they want. Other people find it easier to dump them out into a pile. I personally prefer to dump them out into a pile. So to do this, make sure that you're wearing your gloves and simply dump them out. Now, this recipe calls for to use 15 coals to heat up our Dutch oven. So what we're going to do is pick 15 coals out and place the Dutch oven on top of those. Now, as long as the coals have some white on them, you know that they're burning. They don't have to be all white. You want to pick some good sized ones though to get a good amount of heat. All right, so while that's heating up, let's go ahead and collect our ingredients. All right, so the oven's been heating up for about 5 minutes now, so now it's time to add our ingredients. This recipe we're making today is a peach cobbler. What you need is 2 30-ounce cans of sliced peaches, which I've already opened to save some time, a box of yellow or white cake mix, some ground cinnamon, and half a stick of butter that I have previously sliced up. So we'll take the lid off of our oven. This is where the lid lifter comes in handy. We'll set that aside. And the oven is nice and warm. So we'll start by pouring in our peaches, syrup and all. Don't cut yourself here, Scouts. All right, so now our peaches are in. The next thing we need is our cake mix. Cake mix, we're just going to sprinkle over the top. So try and get a nice even coating. Try not to get too much on the sides. Right. Now we're going to sprinkle some cinnamon. Just give it a nice dusting. You can use as little or as much cinnamon as you like. I like to give it about that much. And then finally, we will arrange the butter and simply drop bits of the butter around it. Try and spread it out as much as you can, but it doesn't need to be perfect. And we will put our lid back on. And that is it. Now, we let it cook for about 45 minutes. Almost forgot, most important part. Now that we have the lid on, we need to add 10 more coals to the top. So this is what's going to finish cooking our dessert. 2, 3, 4. 8, 9, 10. Again, just sort of try and arrange them reasonably evenly around. And there we go. All right, it's been about 15 minutes now. One of the things you want to keep in mind with cooking with the Dutch oven, since we're using charcoal, the heat isn't necessarily evenly distributed around the oven. So every 10 or 15 minutes or so, what you want to do is you want to rotate the oven to remove those hot spots and make sure your food is cooking evenly. So the easiest way to do this is if you make a note of where the lid is pointed, such as the symbol or where the handle is, you pick up the oven and you turn it a third of the way around, and then with your lid lifter you rotate the lid back so the lid is pointing back in the same direction. You distribute the heat both on the top and the bottom. So that's a good trick to use. And again, every 10 or 15 minutes, that's what you want to do while you're cooking. All right, it's been 30 minutes and I've just rotated the oven once again. However, at this point, you might notice that some of the coals are starting to get a little small. So if that happens, that's normal. They're going to burn up, obviously. If the coals are starting to go away, though, all you need to do is just pick up a few extras from your pile and just add them to the top, and maybe a couple at the bottom, just to make sure your heat stays where it needs to be. All right, it's been 45 minutes, so if everything went as planned, our cobbler should be done. Now, I know it's really tempting when you're cooking like this to want to sneak a peek every now and then, but it's really important when you're cooking with a Dutch oven that you leave the lid on the entire time. All that happens if you take the lid off to take a look is the heat all escapes. It takes a long time for it to heat back up, and all it does is make the cooking time take longer. So, this is the first time I've opened this, so let's go ahead and see it. So, with our lid lifter, we'll want to grab the lid real careful and really carefully pick it up. Most important thing here, do not let any of the ashes fall into your dessert. No one wants that. Also, be careful when you open it up if any escaping steam comes out. So let's lift it up, and that looks good. So we're done cooking now. So what we'll do is we will simply tip the ashes off the lid and set the lid aside for a moment. We will then remove the charcoal from the underside. So we'll pick it up and we'll just scrape the charcoal out of the way. And put it back. And now we just let it cool off and then we'll serve it up. And there you have it, a quick and easy dessert that you can make on your own. Now it's perfect. Enjoy. Of course, we're not quite done yet. They're still cleaning up. But cleaning a Dutch oven is actually pretty simple, and I'll show you here how to do that. So to clean a Dutch oven, we just need a couple of things. We need a plastic scraper, we need some paper towels, some hot water, aluminum foil, and some cooking spray, some cooking oil. So we start with just by using the scraper to scrape out all the little chunky bits that are stuck to the inside of the oven. Note that this is a whole heck of a lot easier if you do this before the oven is cooled off completely and everything hardens up. So doing this the following morning is no fun at all. So just go ahead and scrape off as much as you can. Okay. So after that, we'll use our paper towels and we will just wipe out all the little bits that are left in it and try and get as much stuff out as we possibly can. Helps to have a garbage bag handy for this. Try and get as much out as we can. All right, so after that's done, what we'll do is we pour in about 4 to 6 cups of hot water, boiling preferably. All right, and then we just let that sit for a little while. All right. So now that the water's cooled down a little bit, we're going to take a piece of aluminum foil, about that much, and crumple it up into a loose ball. And we're just going to use this to scrub out the inside of our Dutch oven. So you want the water to still be a little hot, but not hot enough to burn you. But the hotter you can keep it, the better. Oh, yes. All right, then all we have to do is dump out the water. I have a handy deck right here to do that. All right, and then we dry it out with a paper towel. You want to make sure all of the moisture is out. You don't want any water to be in your Dutch oven or it will rust. So make sure all the water is out. And then the very last step is we're just going to take a little bit of cooking oil. You can use any kind of cooking oil that works. I like this spray kind. Just a little bit in, and then with a paper towel, just spread that around and put a nice light coating of oil in the whole thing. And there you have it. Your Dutch oven is ready to go for next time. So remember, to clean a Dutch oven, remember the following saying: It's boil, foil, then oil. So Scouts, I hope that you found this helpful and that you'll go out and try making your own Dutch oven creations at your next camp out. But remember, Dutch ovens are not just for dessert. I've made some great breakfasts, cornbread, stews, chilies, lots of other things. So there's a lot of books and a lot of recipes you can find on the internet if you're interested in learning how to do more Dutch oven cooking for yourself. All right, remember again though, always make sure you're safe and make sure you have the proper equipment and the adult supervision when you're doing any cooking. All right, good luck to you in your scouting journey, and thanks again for your time today. Good day, Scouts.